Welcome to Al and the High. Two friends talking crypto and sports. Let's get it.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Al and the Hot Podcast. We're going to dive into some sports here real quick. Let's talk about the NFL playoffs. So the Chiefs snuck one out against the Browns. We'll touch on that one first. Definitely.
Kind of happened in reverse.
Right?
I thought they were going to come out sluggish, and they came out freaking like game busters, and then slowed down, I think.
Yeah, Cleveland hung around for a little bit. Props to Cleveland. They had a great season.
They fought,
but
it didn't get blown out.
I saw a stat today. I think every drive that Mahomes was in up until he got hurt, they scored. Whether it was a field goal or whatever, other than the missed field goal, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But so he goes out. God, what was there? Like 5-6 minutes left in the fourth. And honestly, I don't even know what happened. Like, you go back and watch the replay, he didn't hit his head. Go back and watch his head hit the turf.
Acted like he did, though.
Acted like he did. Like, he got up and he talk about.
He got mushed.
I have no legs. Like, he was so bushy. Like, the lineman held him up. But then you see him, he goes into the blue tent, and then they show him, sprinting to the freaking locker room. But yeah, so Cleveland comes out, gets the ball back, and they can't go down. They punt the ball, which I think anybody would. You get your backup quarterback in on the other side. You got 4.5 minutes left or whatever.
4 minutes,
you're going to stop him. And then, props to Chad Henne, pulling it out. He takes off on that, 3rd and 18, goes for it, takes off running, gets stopped. I think it was just 6 inches. And then, Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy pull one out of their hat, and obviously they've worked on that at practice. And props to them, as coaches, what your guys can do, and that's the key, is putting your guys in situations that can be successful.
Yeah, succeed.
And they obviously know Chad Henne could roll to the right a little bit, throw that little dump to Tyreek Hill, and they aren't keeping up with Tyreek Hill. As soon as he gave that inside jab, it was over. And he sits down, and they end up sneaking that out. But so it's going to be interesting though to see if
does he make it through the protocol to play this week. I
think he does.
I know he does.
Yeah.
Come on, bro. Let's think about this. This ain't some regular season game.
Yeah.
This is the game to get to the game.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I know the NFL, because a few years back they had issues with the teams doing their own protocols and stuff, and so they do outsource separate. That's why he had to go back into the locker room. They have separate doctors that they hire out. But I get you. At some point, it's going to be he's just going to be nope, I'm good. And whether he has a headache or not, he's going to be I got it.
But
I'm going to answer these
questions. I don't when do they have to declare whether he'll play?
Sunday, I think. As long as he clears all the protocols, he's good. So unless there's some type of backtrack where he misses something or something happens with one of the days, they have it. I forgot what it is, but it's all scheduled out as far as your steps through the protocol. And as long as he hits all of them, he's good to play.
Then I don't know if you know this, but is the spread reflecting him playing or not?
It's currently reflecting him playing.
Okay.
But I did see something where it was if he wasn't to play, it was going to flip and be +2 or Buffalo -2. So they were going to all of a sudden be the favorite on it. Which, if he doesn't play, they're way more than 2-point favorites. Let's be clear here. But
it's a little different when he's in the game.
Yeah, definitely. But then you have
because the package is not going to be that. Well, not that KC runs that complicated. All they run is all seeing. Geez, Louise.
Just drag. They talked about it in the game.
I know. And he'll slam it down if you play zone. They just want to see what the
wheel back out. He starts scrambling around, but that's we'll get into that later a little bit. I was talking to Bugs T-Hop about that. We were texting back and forth. I don't know if you were on the chat or on the text.
No, I was on that chat. I was the one I was working.
Yeah,
I was look at my phone. It's 11 texts. I'm what the hell are these guys doing?
Yeah, but so then the Ravens lost to the Bills this weekend, so it's going to be the Bills and the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. And honestly, we both kind of predicted that. We thought it was going to be a good game.
Impressed with Josh Allen, man.
Yeah, and then it boils down to Baltimore and Lamar Jackson's inability to throw the ball. Throws the pick six.
That hurt.
That hurt. And you listen to the
going in.
Yeah, going in 101 100 yard interception return for a touchdown. And you
Didn't
listen to
even
the
see him.
corner after the game, like he was splitting them, and you could see it. And he flat out, he's like, you know what? Like I knew the guy was on the outside of me, but we talked about it all week. Like Mark Andrews is his go-to guy. And so he just said, you know what, fuck it. They score, but I'm going to cheat this way. And he snuck over there, and lo and behold, Lamar didn't see him, and he picks it off and takes it the other way. And then they get the ball back, and I think it was a bad snap or something, or Lamar scrambled out and ends up getting, going out with a concussion as well.
Yeah.
His head bounced off the turf. Like that didn't shock me. That's not a good feeling. I know, like with us playing before, that was back before all this. You just kind of got up and shook your head and kept going, but it's not a good feeling. But yeah, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs again, just making plays. Again, their coaching staff, man, putting their players in position to succeed.
Yeah, but Josh Allen, man, his accuracy, whatever he did on the offseason or whoever was working with him on his accuracy, but his accuracy he was like a 50% passer.
Well, he's gone from like his rookie year, I think he was like at 53%, and now he's like at 69 or something, like just under 70.
Yeah,
and a lot of that,
he pushes the ball down the field.
Yeah, and as a quarterback coach, you could change your technique and stuff, but ultimately, when you get in that fire like that, like you kind of revert back to just
back to whatever you do. Yeah.
So a lot of it is just the coaching staff, and that's what people have talked about with Baltimore. And they came out today, I think it was today, and said like, we're not changing the style of play with Lamar at quarterback, blah 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 blah, for all you pass happy people. And people I've listened to, like, I'm not a huge ESPN fan anymore, but they do have a lot of ex players on there, and I do like a couple of them. And Dan Orlovsky, who was kind of bounced around the league, wasn't very skilled. He's like turned into a freaking phenomenal. Like, give him a follow on Twitter. Like, he like breaks down film, and like I'm talking like at his house. Like, he'll be at his house and he'll post videos and be talking about stuff of what they're seeing. Like, he was talking about, like, he brought up, he's like, we're not telling you to throw it all over the place, but you need to have a passing game that's mirroring what you do in the running game and make it more successful. Like, your passing game is not sophisticated whatsoever. And so that's where they need to change a little bit. But I mean, Lamar's special. He's going to be around for years. So, but yeah, Bills and KC is going to be a great game, I think. And then
Mahomes plays.
The Mahomes plays is going to be a good game, But and then NFC wise, the Packers took care of the Rams, which we kind of predicted up there. It was tight early, and then they just kind of pulled away.
Yeah.
And you could see Aaron Darnold was hurting
on the sideline.
He wasn't himself.
Not good.
Jalen Ramsey and Devontae Adams talking trash a little bit.
I know. That was kind of cool.
I loved it. Devontae telling him, like, you follow me everywhere I go. You fucking follow me, and we'll see. And Devontae had a decent game. Didn't he wasn't blowing up, but he had, I think, like,
he wasn't pushing really the ball down the field that much, but I don't think that's really, I haven't seen too much of Green Bay.
That's not his game, though. He's just a clean route runner. I saw one play, he caught a slant and he broke off Jalen Ramsey so fast off the line of scrimmage. Like, Jalen wasn't within 5 or 6 yards.
Nowhere,
So,
and it looked like he tried to play it off like he was playing zone or something.
Yeah, he like bailed out, like, oh, it's cover 3, bro. It's not me. It's cover 3.
I saw that.
But Aaron Rodgers, man, like, he hits Valdez Scantling to kind of break that open for the long touchdown. And Aaron Jones running the ball again. They're so hot right now. Their defense is playing really well.
It's going to be interesting with New England. I like New England. I'm just thinking Brady, Tampa Bay.
Tampa Brady. They sneaked that one out. They they lost the two divisional games to them this year pretty handily. Like, New Orleans handled them this year. And they come out, and you could tell the game plan was different. Like, it was more of like, we're not going to make mistakes. We're going to try to force them into mistakes, and we're going to keep the ball. They did. And honestly, that's Tom Brady. If that's what the game plan is, he's not going to make those mistakes.
Nope.
And Drew Brees, it sounds like, I don't think he's put out a formal thing yet, but it sounds like that was his last game. Ends on
the arm strength just isn't there no more.
And you can see it.
Yeah.
You can see it the way he's playing.
Yeah, the mind is there, but the arm strength just isn't there.
And
you can't push the ball down the field.
And honestly, it has to. You have to think it goes back to the shoulder surgery he had.
Yeah,
when
probably took a couple years off him
before he went to New Orleans. That's why San Diego got rid of him. And ultimately, how crazy is that? That changes Nick Saban's trajectory as an NFL coach. If you think about that, like in college football as a landscape, he's in Miami, and they were looking at him, and they ultimately decided, no, we're not. We're too scared about the shoulder. And so Drew Brees goes to New Orleans, wins a Super Bowl. Sean Payton's like a Hall of Fame coach, and Nick Saban gets bounced like the year later, and he ultimately goes to Alabama and becomes arguably the best college coach ever. But think about that, like the trajectory of not only Nick Saban's career in the NFL, but the Miami Dolphins. Like they're still looking for a quarterback.
Quarterback. Yep.
Think of Alabama. Like they had bounced through a few coaches. Like they weren't doing very well before he got there. So it's kind of crazy how Drew Brees is just kind of that whole situation has definitely thrown a wrench into certain programs and certain things. That it's if he ends up going to Miami, it may change a few things.
Yeah, no bet.
But so Tampa's got to go up to Green Bay. Again, like you said, you can't count out Tom.
And he's a cold weather guy. And then and Gronk is a cold weather guy, and they can run the ball. The defense is good.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So it should be very, very good game. I'm actually looking forward to this game because normally up in the house, I tend to have a couple kids, so it can get a little wild in there. So it's hard for me to concentrate and watch the entire game. Yeah, but I'm actually going to try and pay attention and watch this one because I think it's going to be entertaining. I really do.
It should be a good game. The crazy part is again, early in the season, Tampa gave it to Green Bay.
Yeah.
And it started off, I think Green Bay went up and it was tight early. And then I think, out of the 5 picks Aaron Rodgers threw all year, I think he threw 2 of them against Tampa. And so it's kind of just, you will see. I do think
Devin White, the middle linebacker, said something along the lines of is that they didn't deserve to be on the field with us. Is what he said.
And he's back. He was out for a few games. I don't know if it was COVID or injury or what, but he's back. And he brings him and Levante David, probably the best tandem at linebacker in the league. He's so fast.
They bring it.
He's so fast. They're both fast, but he
was like a 4-4 guy, I believe. I wanted the Raiders to take him. Yeah. But and I think their freaking D tackle's coming back.
Oh,
they have some stud ass. I think they have a stud ass freaking D tackle, and I think he's coming back this game.
Could be. I know he's been out for a while.
If he comes back and he's, I look at that kind of like the whole, Ray Lewis, Sam Adams, and Siragusa.
Did I ever tell you I saw Siragusa in an airport?
Really?
I was flying
seems
back.
Like a cool cat, man.
He was cool as fuck, dude. Like I was like 20, and I'm in Miami, and we were flying back, like did a family cruise, and I walked over, like I was waiting with my pops, and I was like, I'm gonna go get something to munch on the plane. So I walk over to like the little market thing or whatever, and I'm standing there, and he's standing right in front of me, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, this dude looks like Tony Siragusa, and he's all of 6'4", 300 pounds or whatever the fuck he is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at him because I couldn't really get a clear shot on him, and then I looked down, and he had his Ravens Super Bowl ring on.
Mm.
And I was like,
"Oh, that's him."
So he kind of looked at me, and I looked at him, and I was like, "You Tony?" And I, kind of just said what's up to him, and I was like, I don't want to make like a scene, so people, not that he's some huge superstar, but he was like, oh, I appreciate it, and we just kind of had a little conversation, but. He big as fuck. But yeah, it does think about it, like Ray Lewis, him, in that middle.
And Sam Adams.
Yeah,
and they kept everybody off him.
Yep.
And Ray can just flow. He can flow and do his thing. And if this big fucker is back and he's eating up blocks, and Green Bay runs the ball. They run the ball.
Yeah, they do.
So that's what I'm saying? Like yeah. I'm looking forward to that. Like both these games should be highly entertaining.
Definitely.
Because I think the Chiefs and the Bills potentially can be a shootout.
Yeah.
And then
I agree.
And then I can see the I don't want to call them the Patriots, the fucking Buccaneers and the Packers being 17-10.
Yeah, and I can see that because like you have to think that the Buccaneers are going to try to keep it that way. Like they're probably going to go into the kind of the same game plan as they went into New Orleans,
Mm-hmm.
and just try to game manage it and let the defense play and do their thing. But yeah, it's going to be a good weekend of football. I think. Even the only thing that worries me is the Bills have a little bit of struggle running the ball recently.
Yeah, they have.
And you saw in the first half against Baltimore, I think they only put up 3. It was like 3-0. I mean, their defense is good, but there was 3-0, and they weren't able to really run the ball. So it's going to be different to see what they kind of do this week against KC because I don't think they could go. Score.
Well, if Mahomes plays because his head is cool, then remember he also had the toe thing. Something happened to the big toe.
Yeah, he had like a turf toe issue or something.
Yeah. So what?
I was telling my fiance about it, and I'm like, because she asked about it, we were watching it, and somebody said something. I don't think it was this game, but it doesn't sound like a major injury, but people don't realize like how much you use your big toe to like run and stop and do all that, and it slides in your shoe.
They don't fucking know.
So,
they have no clue.
And essentially, it's
you're on your feet.
Yeah, it's a sprained toe, or potentially a broken toe, depending on the severity of it. And like you said,
I'll tell you like this. I pulled my hamstring in college, and that by far I've broken collarbones, fingers, rolled numerous ankles, but pulling my hamstring was by far my worst injury due to the simple fact that no one would ever think that you would need your hamstring to roll over in bed.
Yeah.
Rolling over in bed, laying on your back,
hurt.
Every moving hurt because you don't even think you use your hamstring when you move.
Mm-hmm. Well,
unarmed,
honestly,
anything
on the legs, to be honest with you. And your back, like you could deal with and as much as like even with like your bicep or tricep or shoulder or something, like you don't really realize how much it works when you're doing stuff. But when you're talking about like walking around or just moving around, like your calves, your toe, your this, your quad, like
any lower body injury,
like any movement you make, and then you got to think too. Like I remember pulling my hamstring at college too, and it was like even laying around or sitting around like hurt because it's the pressure.
It's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable. So you can't like it's hard to sleep at night. It's like anytime you try to move, like you said, it hurts. And so it's the same, not to the extreme with the toe, obviously, but when you're trying to play a sport.
Yes, and this is the thing about that. There are different sports like baseball. Depending on the position you play, you might be able to get away with it. Basketball, you can change your speed. You know what I'm saying? Football, you play one way, and if you don't play that way, that's your ass.
Yeah, yeah.
I would assume hockey is like that as well.
Yeah, you see it all the time with basketball. Like people talk about it all the time. Like Kobe was really good at it, Michael. But you see like some of the younger players, just their tempo. Like they know when to be able to push it, know when they can slow it down and change that tempo to keep the defense guessing of like where they're going and what they're doing. But yeah, football, you can't do that. Like Patrick Mahomes has got to run full speed to get away from a 300-pound D lineman trying to kill him. So it's no like I'm going to slow down a little bit and see if it maybe throws him off. Like no, he's
or I'll back him down and use my turnaround or my or my post game because I don't have my explosion right now. No, it's not like that. It's I don't have my explosion right now, so that means I'm at a disadvantage.
Right.
And they know this.
Yeah, definitely.
So somebody might take a 15-yard penalty, take that extra step to get a shot on him to see if they can rattle him or something like that. That might happen. You know what I'm saying? Will they, will they be trying to protect them? But but this is also the game before the game to get to, they're trying to get to the Super Bowl.
And you have to think, like, as much as people don't want to talk about it, and, it's kind of old hat with, like, trying to hurt people, but, like, you have to think they're going to want to put hits on him. Especially with
for sure. You always do.
Well, you always do, and then especially with the concussion protocol. I heard the stupidest. I was watching Colin Cowherd, and he's one of the guys I can kind of tolerate on sports radio and Fox or ESPN. He made a comment like the Bills, because he came up with this idea of like if it's ultimately the NFL is a TV show, it's a business, and so it's like if you're A+ dude, if Tom Cruise breaks his ankle, they're postponing the shooting of Mission Impossible. And so his thought was like, who's the NFL moves games all the time. They flex the Sunday night games for the better games later in the season. They flex the Thursday night games, and they change schedules all the time. So his thought was like, it was the AFC Championship game. Arguably, your biggest name in the game has a concussion right now, and if he's not going to be ready to Monday, move the game to Monday. And so that was his, and he got into kind of that aspect of it. But then he was like, because you got to think the Bills, like, yeah, you want to get to the Super Bowl, but you don't want to get there if you don't play Mahomes. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, it's the fucking Super Bowl.
That's part of the game.
Some of those, that coach, Josh Allen, all those dudes may never get to the point of an AFC Championship again in their career. That is part of the game. They could give two-bit shit who they line up against. They want to win.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, it is a business. They're all getting paid. And they're all there for a reason.
And honestly, I would love to compete against whoever that person is at their best. But if you're not at your best, then it's time to go. That's the whole thing about having depth and make sure you're coaching up everybody. And you know what I'm saying? I would have loved to have been able to postpone a game or two because we had to wait for somebody that was fucking. And I get it. You know what I'm saying? It is a TV show and it is a business, but if I'm on the other team, like, have that motherfucker ready. It's kind of
that's a slippery slope, bro. Like, let's be real here. Like, so what's to say, like, it's one of my buddies was like, the 49ers had 25 dudes on IR. Can we start the season over? Like, at what point do you start? Oh, well, they lost their guy. He's not gonna be, but he's gonna be good Tuesday. So let's move the game to Tuesday. Like, at what point? Oh, he's just the running back. Like, what do you mean he's just the running back? He's Derrick Henry.
Well, the Raiders Raiders had a bunch of people.
They had like their whole line was out.
The whole line was out, and they were like, just push the game. They were like, nah, we're burning. Get them ready.
Denver Broncos, like they had to play their practice squad quarterback because all their quarterbacks were out on COVID protocol, and they didn't bump the game. And I remember getting into that conversation with somebody because they were bumping the game back, the Baltimore-Pittsburgh game. They moved like 3 times because Baltimore was having COVID issues. And it's like, why is it different? Why can't we bump that game back another 2 days and Denver can have their starting quarterback or at least a backup? But who knows? But it's a slippery slope. But it's going to be a good football weekend. Obviously a chance to the Super Bowl. And
this is best football weekend of the NFL.
Right.
This is it.
And no Pro Bowl this year. So obviously, not that I don't think I'm watching Pro Bowl.
Fuck the Pro Bowl.
I've always said they need to fix it. They need to go back to. Well, remember back, and obviously I'm dating myself, but you were probably. I remember when they used to do the challenges.
I like that.
Being in Hawaii, like the quarterback challenges, like they had like the long arm or the. And they kind of started doing that with I remember seeing like the receivers and stuff, like they're doing the one-handed catch.
Yeah, I remember Chad Johnson and Steve Smith going back, and they had a one-hand catch and stuff like that. But they need to bring that back. NFL fastest man.
Yeah, like
you know what I'm saying? Do that.
Like you have the voting for the Pro Bowl. Like it's fan based.
It goes back. But the thing is it goes back to the whole thing. You can only play football one way. Yeah. You can't, because if some guys are out there going full speed and the other guys are going half speed, somebody's getting fucked up.
Remember what happened to that punter that Sean Taylor hit in the Pro Bowl?
Yeah.
But
then everybody mad at him.
Yeah, but that's what it turned into. And it turned into just basically a glorified 7-on-7 game.
Mm-hmm.
So
they're not even taking people down to the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
They're wrapping up and tweet. It's just like.
They need to go back.
I'd rather watch 7-on-7.
Yeah, so would I. 7-on-7.
And then do a lineman challenge.
Like they do, like we talk about high school.
For high school.
Yeah, do like a skills challenge. Do like all the quarterbacks. Do like a running back one. Do whatever. So I remember watching those and having to hit the, they had the ball with like the blue chalk on it, and they had to hit the moving targets.
Hit the little
off the golf carts and stuff. So that stuff was kind of dope. But yeah, so then the Pro Bowl and then
I saw a little
clip.
Super Bowl. Did you see that clip of Tom Brady doing that with the Bucks? They had like 3-4 balls, and it was going across, and he just dead on. Ping, ping, ping.
Well, it's crazy. I like talk about Drew Brees. Like I remember seeing a video. I think he did a sports science thing, and it was like his release and his throwing motion was so repetitive, like as far as just the same exact, like to the like fractional like measurements
Muscle memory.
with the muscle memory of it. And it was like, that's why he was so accurate, was like his mechanics, just the muscle memory, it never changed. And it just became like, he was just hitting the whatever they were having him throw at.
Drew Brees would hit windows. Like he would drop balls in. Like that's one of the things I think he did honestly better. He would drop balls in buckets, and I'm talking like a running back wheeling, you know what I'm saying, in a cover 3, got the backer closing in, the corner closing in, or whatever the case may be, and just bloop, you know what I'm saying, or it's a cover 2, and they're closing in, and it just bloop, or it can just be the back shoulder where the guy is stride for stride, you know what I'm saying, he barely slows down, and bloop. Yeah. Right in the he drops them in so like I've never seen a quarterback drop him in like that.
Yeah.
The way he can just drop it in a bucket at any throw.
In his
and
prime,
it's not getting there with any velocity.
Yeah. Yeah. And in his prime, when he did have a little bit of it, because even in his prime after the shoulder surgery, he could get the job done, but he wasn't like by far the strongest arm in the league. And but he was on target. Like he probably the most accurate quarterback in NFL history if you just kind of look at it with things that he can do. But yeah, sadly, obviously his career seems to be coming to an end. And interesting, so the Super Bowl's in a couple of weeks, but interestingly enough, like the guy that kind of superseded him in San Diego, Phillip Rivers, retired today. Came out and announced it. It's always.
I thought he would go another year. He had a good year.
He had a good
His turnovers were down.
I've always. The funny thing is, I know so many people that obviously being from LA. My sister-in-law is from San Diego, so like I always used to give her crap, but you see a lot of the games, obviously with no LA teams and stuff. You see a lot of the Chargers. Mm-hmm. I always loved Phillip Rivers. Like, could he complain a little bit? Yeah, but he was so competitive, and you're seeing
never cussed.
Yeah, never cussed. Like he's got,
and he would be out there talking shit. When I found out he never cussed, I was like, come on. He talks so much shit out there.
There's a video
and for him not to say no cuss words,
right? And there's all the stuff's coming out now because he retired, and so like everybody's reposting all these videos. And there's a video he threw, like gets hit as he throws the ball, and the guy catches it, and it's like a 90-yard touchdown. And he's like yelling in the dude's ear, like 90-yard touchdown, but he's not looking at him, and the ref's right there, and the ref's like, get the fuck out of here, like when do you stop talking shit? And he's like, I'm not talking, I'm just yelling. It's a 90-yard touchdown. I can't be excited. And the dude's like, hey, 17, you come say that to my face after the game. And he's like, 90-yard touchdown. But there was a story too of JJ Watt like came out and said something today. Like they were playing the Chargers one year. And, obviously we can hear it now with the quarterbacks making checks at the line of scrimmage. And he's like, we're lined up, we're getting ready for a play. And Phillips over there calling out plays. And he started yelling at our linebacker. And I like kind of looked up at him, and he's like yelling, and he's like, "That's not where you're supposed to be for the blitz. You need to go over there." And he's like, and JJ Watt was like, and the motherfucker was right. Like he told our linebacker that he was lined up wrong for the blitz that they were about to run, and he was fucking dead right. Like, but yeah, Phillip Rivers has always been funny. Like I love his press conferences are good. Today he got a little emotional with obviously like being that and people don't realize how much work they put in. Especially as they get older in their career, like trying to, stay healthy and
because you're losing your athleticism, you're losing all that kind of stuff. So if your mind isn't getting sharper and making up for that difference,
well, and then just to stay in good enough shape to do it, unless you're Ben Roethlisberger, where you don't really work out. But so he got a little emotional today, but he's always been kind of funny, and he's got I think 7 or 8 kids, him and his wife. And he made the comment today. He's like, it's a good time for me to retire, for me and my wife to start a family. Like, just like keeping that, like, but he's always been that way. Like, he's always kind of been that fun dude. But yeah, so he retires. So it's going to be interesting what Indy does. I guess they may be in the race for a new quarterback now, but
let's see. They got also they don't really have any trade pieces. I don't know. They got Michael Pittman as a receiver. T.Y. Hilton ain't what T.Y. Hilton used to be.
Yeah, and I think his contract.
They got a horse back there though.
Yeah, so
I always like Jonathan Taylor.
And you got to assume, they made the playoffs, but they may be able to get like a Mac Jones late or somebody like that to bring in, a Kyle Trask to bring in to maybe like
somebody flipped. There's a lot of quarterbacks, though. There's a lot of
Yeah.
quarterbacks in this draft.
Trey Lance, and you got to think, like you said, you have the run game. You have a really good O line. Arguably, the last couple of years, they had the best O line in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, you got Pittman, you got T.Y. Hilton if they bring him back, and Frank Reich
You can draft
is a
draft
really
another
good,
receiver.
yeah, and Frank Reich's a really good, offensive mind, the head coach there. He was in Philly when Carson Wentz did his MVP season kind of thing, and so
Defense is good.
and the defense is good. So you got to think they have the pieces. They just got to get a guy in. But yeah, so other news, so a couple of coaches have been hired since we talked last. Obviously, Urban Meyer was hired down in Jacksonville.
Should be interesting.
Should be interesting. The funny part is, how long is he going to be there? It's always like
3 years.
Shit. He's never lost more than 2 games in a season. Imagine if he loses 3 in a row, and it's like, my health reasons, I got to step down. I love Urban Meyer. I think he's a great coach, but
3 years.
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he transitions to the NFL.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. How his offense transitions, and what quarterback he gets.
Well, you got to figure they're going to take Trevor. So and so you have to assume. I mean, obviously you got a ton of cap space, but it's going to be interesting because he's the offensive guys. I mean, obviously the college game you're starting to see more in the NFL. You're starting to see a little bit more of it, but you've seen in years past where the college coaches especially the offensive guys have not done well.
Yeah, not doing well. Yeah,
because they can get away with things in college that they couldn't.
That they can't.
In the NFL.
By the midseason, they got figured out, and it was all bad.
Right, and so that's going to be a little deal down there in Jacksonville to see who he brings in as a staff. And I know he's already brought in a couple dudes.
He does a lot of RPO though.
Yeah, which is coming into the league.
And and Lawrence is. I mean, hell, Nick Foles won a Super Bowl on RPO.
Right, and had one of the best years of his career with Chip Kelly. So it's going to be interesting to see what goes on there. And then the Jets hired Robert Saleh, who breaks my heart. He's leaving the 49ers. Happy for him. He's seems like everything I've seen. He's a good dude. First Muslim American to be a head coach. Obviously, but
cool.
Interesting thing about that, the NFL introduced a minority coaching program. Essentially, they kind of had that Rooney Rule before. And
right.
I think they weren't seeing the results that they thought that was going to bring, which I could have told you that.
Mm-hmm.
But the team that the coach leaves, so the 49ers essentially, they're getting I think it's 2 third-round picks. And so essentially what happens is they're incentivizing
from the Jets?
No, they added into the draft. So they're getting
what is they called?
The compensatory pick, yeah.
Yeah.
So but what they did, which I thought was pretty smart, is they're incentivizing teams to essentially groom these minority coaches to be head coaches. And because you see a lot, because ultimately, I've talked about before with people, and it's, are you ready to be a head coach in the NFL? Whether you're white, black, or whatever, or Muslim American, there's a lot to it. I got into this with Bugs the other day. Not really, we were on that text, but Eric Bieniemy, talking about him, and he hasn't been hired yet, and it's but what are they doing? How is he interviewing? First, and then is the situation good enough for him to leave KC? Maybe he's just not wanting to leave KC for certain jobs. But we'll get into that in a minute. But Robert Saleh gets hired there, brings over Mike LaFleur, who was the 49ers OC, who's Matt LaFleur's brother, who's the Green Bay head coach. So same system, brings him over there. So
you guys got a little work to do.
Yeah, the 49ers are promoted within. They hired D'Amico Ryans, who was a linebacker.
Right, I don't remember him.
Well, he was a linebacker coach under Saleh, so he's the DC now. And then the run game coordinator, he's a younger dude. They promoted him to OC. Obviously, Shanahan calls the plays. So
right.
So they promoted their run game coordinator to be the OC now. And both, obviously, D'Amico Myers, but they're both minority guys too. So it's kind of. But that's
right.
Going back to Eric Bieniemy. We don't, you always see these people how are people not hiring him?
Mm-hmm.
And he's been with Kansas City for a few years. But it goes back to, it's it all looks good on the cover, but you still see people talk about Andy Reid, and
Well, Andy Reid calls the plays.
but he doesn't. But see,
He does it.
I think they kind of have I don't know how it's split up, but you see Eric Bieniemy.
Was it like how
Bieniemy talks to the quarterback, so Bieniemy is the one setting the play into the quarterback. But when you see people are like the funniest thing, again, talking about like ESPN and people just not knowing shit, or people not realizing what they're talking about. Like they talk about one segment, they'll talk about how great Eric Bieniemy is, and I can't understand why he's not getting hired by these coaches. And then the next segment, they talk about how gutsy the play call was on 4th and inches with Chad Henne for Andy Reid to make that call. And it's like, but wait, you just told me Eric Bieniemy is calling the plays, so you're contradicting yourself. So it goes back to like, and again,
I didn't know he called the plays. Yeah, I thought Andy Reid was calling the plays.
But see that everybody is so high on Andy Reid. Like everybody's talking about how great Andy Reid is, this offensive mastermind, and so he doesn't get the pub because Andy Reid's getting all this hype, and so I think that's part of it. I think who knows how he goes into an interview, and that's a lot.
Well, how many coaching jobs are left?
The Lions hired Dan Campbell, who was like I forgot where he was at, but he was a couple of years ago. He was the interim coach in Miami. But he's kind of just like a motivator. He wasn't even a coordinator. I can't remember what he coached, maybe D-line or something. But
my whole
there's
thing
a few.
is,
but it's like again,
unless he's, and this goes for anybody, unless he's my guy, then I'm hiring somebody so I can get started.
Mm-hmm.
Like all bullshit aside, Bieniemy could be tied up for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that too, and that probably has something to do with it. The success that he's having, teams just want to move on, and so
but if he's your guy, then yeah, you wait for him.
Right.
But if who knows how these other cats went in there in the interview? They might have handled their business in the interview.
And you would think a spot like San Diego, which they ended up hiring, I think the Rams offensive or defensive coordinator, can't remember his name off the top of my head, which that kind of shocked me. Like I would have been all in on Bieniemy with Herbert.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes back to if you're Bieniemy, if maybe Houston is a spot where they're looking at him, but do you want to go to Houston?
No.
Or do you want to sit and wait for another year and coach Patrick Mahomes? So it's how much is it him turning down jobs or maybe not interviewing at certain jobs, and him actually because if you think about Houston, you could look at it and be like, cool, but with Deshaun Watson, all the stuff going on with him, it makes you wonder. But it makes you wonder, is he going to be there? And if he is there, is it like, oh, we'll see how it goes, or if it's like, oh, we're just going to get rid of him. And so, the Houston job is still way up in the air. And if I'm going to Houston, I'm saying, get me the picks. Like, I don't want to deal with the Deshaun issues. He's unhappy. Like, let him go. But trade him to the Jets and get me 6 first-round picks. Like,
give me time.
Give me some time. Because that's the thing. It was kind of funny. You see people like, what's he worth? And you look at, Jamal Adams got traded for 2 first-round picks, and Jalen Ramsey got traded for 2 first-round picks, and I forgot who else it was. Somebody else got traded for first 2-round picks, and it's like, okay, well, if I could have those 3 or Jamal or Deshaun Watson, I would take Deshaun Watson. So obviously he's worth 6 first-round picks, right? Like you're kind of like, how do you? Nobody's been traded. You got to think he's a top 5 quarterback, prime of his career, early prime of his career.
Yeah,
early. And he's wanting out. So. When has that ever happened as a quarterback? You see players do it.
Not much.
But
yeah, you play the game. You see exactly how much these people are going to be willing to offer.
Right.
Yeah, they get.
And that's why, as a 49er fan, I said this last week. I was like, I'm giving up Jimmy. I'm giving up picks. I'm taking him. If I take
would Urban Meyer make a play?
Maybe, but. And maybe that's
give up the first round draft.
That's what I'm saying. If I'm going to Houston, I would just start saying, let's see what I can get for him because he's upset. I don't want to try to mend fences as my first thing.
But what I'm saying is, would you trade the first round pick for
Deshaun.
Deshaun.
Fuck yeah.
And
because you don't know what Trevor Lawrence is going to be. You really don't. You already know what Deshaun Watson, whether your system's going to work or not. You know what Deshaun Watson is. So you got to figure even your system, he's going to be somewhat successful in it. He's going to win you games if you have, a decent system and a defense. I actually saw something today and it made a lot of sense to me. And you kind of don't think about it because it's one that's never been done, but it's so like out there that you don't think about it. But it was Nick Wright. He was on Colin Cowherd today. I was watching him, and he said, he's like, what's to say? He's like, it's never been done. But if you could have told me, if I'm, say, the 49ers, that's what he brought up, the 49ers, like putting him on the 49ers puts them as like obviously one of the favorites for years.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, but if you sit there and tell me, so what if the 49ers just said, here's the deal, Houston, you give us Deshaun Watson, and for every year he's on our roster, we're going to give you our first round pick. So if he's on our roster for 10 years, we will give you 10 years worth of first round picks. So put that into perspective. If somebody were to do that, knowing what Aaron Rodgers has done, would you do that for Aaron Rodgers? To have him for 10 years? So that's his thought, is like, if you're going to have one of the best quarterbacks in the game for 10, 12 years, like, you're no longer searching for that quarterback. You could make trades and get back into the first round, but I'm giving you my first round. Like, why not do that? As extreme as that sounds, like, I got my quarterback for 10 years. Or even if I sign him for 5.
So would you do that if you're the Niners?
I don't know. It's kind of extreme, but at the same time, like, why not? Like, Jimmy G's not the answer. Like, shit, we almost won the Super Bowl with Jimmy G. That's the crazy part. But everything kind of had to go right, and obviously it didn't. But if you think about it, like, if you're the Raiders, if you could get Deshaun Watson for 10 years, even if it's for 5, would you get? So you sign him he plays his contract out, and he's got 4 years on it. Would you give him? Would you give 4 years of first round draft picks for him right now? It's a toss up. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it makes sense. And then so you got to think about it. As long as he's on your roster, so he plays his contract out, he re-signs with you for another 5 or 6. But you're not having to look for a fucking quarterback. Like, you have your quarterback. That's the hardest position. But that's the hardest position to find. How many people
every year?
But okay, here's the next. How many teams in the NFL do you think, if you just looked at them, would take their quarterback over Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, not many. I mean, come on.
So that's my point too. That was kind of his point too. Was like,
I think okay.
I would take him over Brady right now because Brady's got 2 years left.
Oh well, yeah, Brady.
So but you got to figure, like, right? If you just looked at, like, same age and everything, you got to figure, like, Mahomes, no. Aaron Rodgers, no.
Well, Aaron Rodgers. How many more years is Aaron Rodgers?
I'm saying, say they're all on the same rate, like same spot. Like, say they're same age, they have like 10 years left in their.
Okay.
So, and even then though, but so you got to figure Mahomes, Rodgers, you're not getting rid of them. But, like, who else? Russell Wilson, maybe you're probably not getting rid of him. But like Tom Brady, if in his prime, probably, but not right now. But, like, there's not many teams. Like, I'm giving up. Like, you could take Lamar Jackson. Give me Deshaun. You could take Josh Allen. Give me Deshaun. Like, go through the list of teams of, like, who's better. Would you just swap quarterback? Like, absolutely. There's probably 3 or 4 max that you would not take Deshaun Watson. And so to sit there and say, like, why not? If I could have one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the league for 10
years. I feel that. I feel that, but just that many years of giving up your first round draft choice, you know what I'm saying? That is like, honestly, for Houston, that would be a great deal. I do. Like, looking at it from Houston's point of view, oh yeah, come on.
But that's what I was saying as a coach. Like, I would go in there and be like, no, I get it. He's Deshaun Watson, but I don't want to deal with the extra stuff. Like, he's already pissed off the owner. He's pissed off everybody.
Oh, I know.
My first job as a head coach, I don't want to try to mend fences, and so I may sit down and talk with them, but at that point, I'm like,
no, his problem was probably ownership,
right? And that's the thing. So
yeah, that has nothing to do with him. He wants out. He don't like the ownership. And then Andre Johnson is talking shit too.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows where within his right and how long until J.J. Watt says something.
Right.
He says, I'm saying he will, but if he does.
He probably will after he's done. But it makes you think though, because as much as you're like, you're still not like hell no, like you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because again, you have a potentially a top 2 quarterback.
I see
for
the
15
draft
10
choices. I see the first round draft choices as gold, man. As gold. And I understand how important or what you call it. Like I maybe do it up to like 3-4 years would be pushing, but I couldn't. You know what I'm saying? He could play out this contract. I give you my first round draft choice.
I would do first round choices through the contract. Like I for sure would. Like if that's 4 years left on it, whatever. Or if I could try to package, as you get farther down the road, like maybe it's 2 years of first rounders and 2 years of seconds or something.
If the Raiders are going to trade and they traded Derek Carr for him, they would have to throw in probably a first and a second.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? At least.
I think like somebody like the Raiders, like the Jets have the collateral because they have like the Jamal Adams picks and a ton of picks behind it. So they do have the collateral. And you got to think they're going to send Sam Darnold. But you have to think like somebody like the Raiders, somebody like the 49ers, you would assume that draft capital that they would be wanting would drop because you're sending that quarterback. Sam Darnold, you're just unloading him because you have to.
Yeah.
So I still want all those picks. But like Jimmy G is serviceable. Like Derek Carr is very serviceable. So
had his best year.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. His trade value is high right now. That's why we're still going to play Mariota the last 2 games when his trade value was at its peak.
Yep, and that's the thing. If I'm Urban Meyer, I do it. I don't care if Trevor Lawrence is the highest rated quarterback since Andrew. And you know what I mean? Like you just don't know. You don't know how these, and you know what you're getting with Deshaun Watson. Like, dude is what, 26?
No, yeah, he's 25. He's 25 now. He'll be 26 next year. But yeah, he can. And he's cerebral and he throws from the pocket. So and he can run.
He can run. Like he's got a hell of athletic ability. But yeah, it's gonna be.
He likes to sit in the pocket.
Yep.
So
yeah, still a couple coaching positions still available. Which like I said, maybe they're waiting on a couple guys like the Bills offensive coordinator Brian Daboll and Bieniemy may get a job, but. It's just interesting. I think so much goes into them, getting hired. You see it because you see the recycling. Obviously, like somebody like Adam Gase who gets hired, and don't get like the Jets are, I think they made a good hire this time, but they've been a wreck since Rex left there. But they hire Adam Gase again, and so it makes you sit there and wonder. Like obviously, when he goes into the interviews. He says what they want to hear, and he talks a good game. Like, he gets fired from Miami, then gets hired in New York, and then you sit here and read the news, and Seattle's interviewing him for their OC job, and considering him, and you're like, what the look at his fucking track record. Like I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole, but he's getting his looks, and so it's just kind of odd to me. Obviously, when he talks to people and stuff behind the scenes, like he makes a very good impression.
Or even if he has to do all that.
Or he's
they all know each other. I think they all know each other.
Yeah, to an extent, but you still have to, I think as a coach, I think you have to do your due diligence. You have to see like, okay, this is our personnel. What do you do with it? And what are your thoughts? And I think as a, like somebody like Pete Carroll, you have to assume he's going to want to start running the ball again and getting back to that. And so you have to assume that he's going to get somebody in there that's going to be more focused on the run game. And Russell Wilson's going to do what he's going to do, but you got to be able to run the ball consistently there. So, yeah, I agree, and that's where you see everybody getting recycled. And that's the Adam Gases, the Dan Campbell in Detroit. You're just seeing all these guys getting recycled, and
they're always seeing to find a job,
right? And I did see. I think Doug Peterson was being interviewed by Seattle, if I remember right. Which I think that would be a good landing spot for him. I could see him and Russell being good together, but
and some might decide to go to college.
Yeah, and you never know. Some of those jobs may open up, and it just could be different. But yeah, so let's dive into the NBA a little bit. The Nets looking all right with James. He comes out that first game as that, like, what was a 30-point triple-double or something. And
Yeah. Then they came out the next game. I think him and Kevin Durant combined, and they won that game. And then Kyrie came out today, and they took an L.
Yeah, it's the what.
Well, actually, I don't know if they took an L. Hold on, before they were losing before we started.
But
let me see.
But yeah, Kyrie came out. We were joking about it last time. MIA.
Oh yeah, they took an L. Double overtime, 147, 135.
I didn't watch it, and obviously it was what we were talking, but I just see them, like, when he's on the court, I can see the chemistry just not being there, the flow not being there, too much ball stopping. I saw like a highlight of him, like he got the pass and he kind of went to drive and it didn't, he pulled it back out and kind of, did a couple back and forths around the 3-point line and pulled up. Like it.
Well, he played 48 minutes. He scored 37 points, 15 for 28 shooting. Really? Kevin Durant, 38 points, 12 for 25 shooting. James Harden, 21 points, 6 for 14 shooting. He did have a triple-double, though.
That's crazy.
12 boards and 10 boards, 11 assists.
And you touched on this. Who else do they have? Like, they don't have anybody else.
Yeah.
So when you sit and look at it, and Kyrie, I give Kyrie, he's obviously just a different cat.
16, DeAndre Jordan had 13, and then the bench, 6 and 4. Jeff Harris played 42 minutes and scored 6 points.
But there's not enough ball.
Yeah.
Like there's not enough basketball to be passed around. And Kyrie had a press conference. I think it was today or it was yesterday. He's a very articulate kid. Like he's not dumb by any stretch. He's just different. Mm-hmm. And I was actually kind of shocked when he came out today because he's always, the last year or so he's been really against the media, and he just came out and he's like, there's more things to life than basketball. It came out that he had bought like George Floyd's family a house and stuff, and
mm-hmm.
and so obviously he's doing stuff, outside of basketball, and I think his mindset is not always good. I think he's got some, a little bit of inner demons and stuff, but he's also doing, other stuff. So
listen, I feel all that, and I understand. You got to take care of yourself and all that, but on the flip side of it, dude, in the middle of the season.
Oh, I'm right there with you. Like you can say what you want about I'm doing this other stuff for social justice.
Yeah.
So is LeBron, and LeBron ain't missing no games. He built
this is your job.
LeBron built a school.
Yeah,
he ain't missing no fucking
games. This is your job.
Yeah,
and you know what I'm saying? Do your job, and that's it. I don't, I'm not trying to. I'm not gonna go. I don't want to go in or anything like that. Who am I to tell this man what he's supposed to do? But damn, do your job. You're getting paid nice amount of money. Show up and do your job.
Well, I actually think, honestly, like watching, and we'll see what happens as they start playing together. But why not trade Kyrie for a slew
of role players?
Role players, like trade him for a big man and a couple wing defenders.
Mm-hmm. Get like a nice 4-way trade going with a couple of other teams,
and get a couple, big man in there with
some picks, send Kyrie
guys.
Mm-hmm. Get about 6 guys.
Because you're seeing it with, if you have 2 good enough players, you're seeing it with the Lakers. You have 2 good enough players, like
2 top 5 players can get it done with right role players,
with very good role players and the right fit and the right chemistry, and they can get it done. And like I've said before, I think it was on one of our first sports podcasts, and it wasn't close. They, as much as they, they didn't sweep anybody, they didn't do whatever, but it was, the finals was 4-2, I think, but everything else was 4-1.
And I'll say this: Harden and Durant in a pick and roll.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, you're not stopping that. I don't care who you are.
James has that. He's got that passing ability, and in like a Steve Nash, obviously with Mike Antoni, we call him that because he's got no D, but he knows that system, and you saw what he did. He was MVP in that system. So he can run around and do his thing. And I always used to you'd watch Steve Nash, and and he just dribble, and he'd be like down the lane and dribble around the baseline and do whatever, and then all of a sudden just throw a pass and somebody's wide open.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see them doing that, but it's gonna be fun to see what happens with them, because I think Kyrie obviously throws the chemistry off.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of get going together here, and to see, like I said, if I was them, I would try to, like, him doing that to, like, tonight. What was he? Just over 50% shooting, or just under 50% shooting for like let him build his draft stock. And then trade his ass. I mean, I don't know if he has a no trade clause or whatnot, but
they can go and get some nice rotational, a couple, get a Contavious Caldwell Pope type, get you a little Montrezl Harrell type.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Just get you some nice role players, another good big man that can play defense, and then you're straight. Yep. A shooter too.
Yeah, a couple shooters that can spread the floor.
Yeah. And just run pick and roll all day. And that's what they want to do anyway.
Yeah.
And if you do with two of the top 5 players in the league.
And look if you really think about it, like what the league's kind of turned into, everybody was trying to chase the Warriors, right? So everybody was shooting the shit out of the 3-point ball. And then, you see what the Lakers kind of did to kind of battle that, almost not necessarily the Warriors, but they battling everybody else going to that, is they, like you said, like they have obviously AD and LeBron are arguably two top 3 players in the league. But when it comes down to crunch time, they need buckets. They pick and roll.
Yep.
And when you look at the Nuggets last year,
yep,
they pick and roll.
Freaking Murray.
They pick and roll, and you see it's
Jonathan Porzingis, whatever his name is.
It goes to, let's put our 2 best players in this situation, and we're going to make the right decision and make the shot. And so it gets you back away from, like, okay, well, how do you piece this team together now? KD's big enough, he could pick and roll. But you look at, like, the Clippers, and it's like you have Kawhi and Paul George. Like, you can pick and roll with them, but are they ideal for it? Probably not.
Yeah, nah.
And, you know what I mean? Like, so some of these other teams, like Portland with CJ and Damian, like,
yeah,
they're not going to pick and roll you to death. You know what I mean? Like, they're at some points they're more ISO ball because they got the 2 guards.
Would you send Kyrie to Portland
to get fucking Dame? Fuck yeah.
Nah. You're not getting Dame. It would be for McCullough, and then probably
I wouldn't. If I'm Portland, I don't do that at all. I mean, if I'm
Kyrie for Bradley Beal,
yeah, because he fits. He's a shooter. Same with CJ. Like, they don't need the ball in their hands, and that's the thing we talked about. Is like Kyrie and James, like, they need the ball in their hands. KD's proven he could play without it.
So would you if you're Washington, would you take Kyrie for Bradley Beal?
No.
Well, no one's going to take Kyrie anyway, because they're going to see him as a head case.
Well, and you have to consider that, but you have to also consider, so I think it's a bad deal for Washington. You have him, and so then you pair him with Westbrook. Like, that's awful.
Oh yeah, I forgot Westbrook.
But that's the same in Portland. Like, you pair him with Dame, and that's just an awful pairing together. You know what I mean? As much as, like, Dame's better than Westbrook, but
see, I think Dame can play. Dame can just play.
I just think their styles. They're honestly, in my opinion, their styles are almost identical. Dame's better, but I just think it doesn't fit. You need Kyrie's he's like an old school, and he's undersized. So that's the crazy part, is he's not the Kobe or Michael, where it's like, give me the ball and everybody get out of the way. But that's what he is. He creates his own shot. He's great at it, but it just doesn't fit that well in the game today. And even to the point, like, even Philly, like, what do you do? Like, Philly is playing really good. They obviously, you got Embiid balling in the post. You can pick and roll with him and Ben Simmons. But, like, where do you send Kyrie? That's the thing. In order to get, like, a really good piece, like, you're not, like you said, you're not going to get a Bradley Beal or somebody like that because he's a head case. Like, you may get Kyrie if you could package together good enough role players.
Orlando?
Yeah, I mean, you could potentially get some dudes out of that.
See, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I'm trying to find a fit. Like, if Kyrie should have never left Boston, he had his team.
Yeah, because he was the dude. He was the ball handler, the score. But then you got to look at again. He's not a system dude. Like, and I touched on it before. Like Brad Stevens is very system orientated. Like, and Jason Tatum essentially has turned into that role, and he's 6'8" or whatever he is, where he's that ISO kind of player. So I don't know. Like where do you put him? Like if you're a team like Minnesota, like maybe you get like D'Angelo and or a couple role players in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Because you put him there and he's the ball handler.
Him and Cat, him and Cat maybe. But they're trying to move Cat.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
Because he just doesn't fit.
Is Oladipo still in Indiana?
No, he was part of that trade. He's in Houston.
Oh, geez, Louise, yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe, I mean, he would not fit in San Antonio. They wouldn't even take him.
No, Papa ain't doing that.
But yeah, I don't know. I think,
but if he changed his game, he'd have to change his game.
I don't think he will though, and that's the thing. Like you brought, or we were talking about, like he's got other things on his mind. So I don't think he's. Like I do think he wants to play basketball and stuff, but it's not in his focus to we got to win a championship. Like he's already won. He already got the one. I think he's kind of moved on. I don't think he's not going to change his game to fit in somebody else's system or anything like that. That's where I think Bradley Beal, it's like the Lakers. Like you talk about like Bradley Beal and like trying to get him and some of these blockbuster trades and moving dudes. Like great fit in LA. I think he'd be a great fit in Brooklyn. He can get his own shot, but he's also that 40% or whatever he is, 42% from the 3-point line. But yeah, Kyrie's, I don't know, man.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, everybody. That does it for Out on the Hot Podcast. Appreciate you listening.
Guys, take it easy, man.
Peace out.
Wild times.